try to.
Yeah.
Alright. Are we live? Is everything working? Camera's not cooperating, that's what's happening. Give that a second. There we go. Hello everybody. My name is Serv and welcome to the stream. Today we are going to be doing something less critical of Final Fantasy XIV because I can't stop ragging on them. And we are going to make a lore-accurate job tier list. Rather than talking about which job is viable, because really who cares, we're going to look at every single job and see which is the most powerful in lore, in canon. Now, we're not going to be using the most extreme examples of a job, like, we're not going to be looking at how the Warrior of Light would perform with those jobs, because that's kind of like the jobs at a ridiculous extreme. We're going to be looking at the jobs when, let's say, like a high skill, maybe not quite a master, but pretty close to master level user of the job goes ahead and wields them. Now, I did not do an audio test before going live here. I didn't think I'd need to, but we did just experience a OBS update, so that might have actually broken everything. I'm not too sure. We're gonna see. Music should not be too loud. I hope everything is fine. You know what? Just to be safe, so that, like, you know, a YouTube VOD of this doesn't get absolutely obliterated, I'm just gonna pull up the stream on my phone and make sure that everything is working. You can hear me just fine. And we aren't, currently being blasted by She Music. We should be fine, but I don't trust OBS updates. I don't want something to secretly break. So, one moment here while I pull that up, and then we'll get started. Alright, everything is good. Everything's fine. I'm not worried. So, without further ado, let's begin. Let's start our surely not at all critical tier list. And now, I do know quite a lot about 14's lore. I don't know everything, but I know quite a lot about the game's lore. You can actually see behind me I've got one of the lore books. Which way is in again? There we go. If I zoom this out, you can see I've actually got all of them next to me. So there's my little nerd flex. See, I play the game. Well, I suppose that doesn't prove that I play the game, but I bought the books. And I've read most of them. Now, with that said, I know a lot about the job lore. I don't know everything. There's a few jobs that I don't necessarily have all the answers to. So if I maybe rank your job a little bit lower than you think it deserves, and you aren't a machinist player, because you know where you belong, then go right ahead, leave a comment, whatever it might be, and argue with me in the comments. I'll fight you down there. So we're gonna start with, I realize you cannot see which job I'm doing next, which is incredibly amusing to me. So it'll just be a mystery if you don't have object permanence, except for the first one, because you never get to see that one. So, we are starting with Scholar. So, Scholar is a really interesting one, because Scholar, I actually hate starting with Scholar because there's so much context that Scholar needs that we don't have because we're starting with it. But I'm actually going to put Scholar in S tier. That is where I think it belongs, and my reasoning for that is, like I said, kind of complex, and I kind of want to leave it there until we get to another job that actually explains and relates to its lore. And why is this not... Play more music. Imagery... Let me get... Play this song, this is a good song. Alright, so we'll leave Scholar there. I'll explain Scholar when we get to a job that relates to Scholar lore. Next up, we have Dark Knight, and I'm sorry for skipping over. I promise you'll get more context on Scholar. But next up, we have Dark Knight. Dark Knight is... I think back in the day, people thought Dark Knight was just kind of whatever. But after the... And I'm gonna warn you right now, there's gonna be some spoilers for Endwalker's story. But Dark Knight, kind of as a result of Endwalker, has received a massive, massive strength boost in story. And so Dark Knight, unsurprisingly, is also going to be S alongside Scholar. I might actually put it ahead of Scholar. So here's the deal with Dark Knight, right? Dark Knight, what is it? It's a knight that threw away its shield, wields a giant sword to compensate for that, and it has darkness magic. Okay, what makes it so special? Well, in 14, every job has their own way of manipulating their own ether, their own personal magic, and the way the Dark Knights do it kind of breaks the rules of how you manipulate your ether. So Dark Knights channel emotion into strength, into actual, like, tangible magical power that they can then use to drain opponents or just obliterate whatever's in their path. On top of that, they're also extremely competent swordsmen, to the point where a Dark Knight is only really able to be a Dark Knight if they can reliably take out an entire unit of soldiers on their own with their sword. So, as far as martial prowess goes, Dark Knight is like at the top. Like, they are around the peak. They are vigilantes, they are the edgy lone wolf character, and they really live up to that archetype. But what pushes them over the edge is their magical abilities. So like we said, they turn emotion into power. But what makes that so broken in 14? Well, if you've finished Endwalker and you've done the final trial of Endwalker's main story, you might remember when you use your big limit break to survive the planet coming down on you, the final boss goes, "What? Dynamis?" And then we get the whole explanation on what Dynamis is. And I don't want to explain what Dynamis is because it's going to take way too long and get us so far off the rails. But Dynamis is like another alternative to Ether that lets you manipulate magical bullshit, but it's based off of emotions. It's like if you took the power of friendship, I believe in myself so I can win kind of like anime trope, and turned it into an actual part of your story. Like, you actually worked that shit in, and it's not just a faulty writing trope. You can keep using it, and it can feel like a cheap writing trope, but it's justified within the lore of your world. That's what Dynamis is. And Dark Knights, ever since their creation, kind of leaned towards the usage of Dynamis before Dynamis was introduced in canon, and seeing as Dynamis was added to the story by the same person who wrote the Dark Knight quests, it's more likely than not that they are actually tapping into Dynamis. So, just because of the fact that they are the only job that can use Dynamis outside of a limit break that we know of, and, you know, the whole I can kill an army of soldiers on my own thing, it's kind of difficult not to put Dark Knight up at S tier, when their primary source of magic, the Abyss as it's called, is the exact same thing that we use limit breaks from. So, gonna put them up at S for now. And then, man, we're getting a lot of ridiculous jobs right out the gates. Because the next one we have here is Black Mage. This tier list, I imagine, is going to be skewed to the top, because why would you make a Final Fantasy job that is weak? Not that they didn't, but why would you? So I'm sure we'll have a lot of jobs kind of up here, and then very few down here, but nevertheless, these are 3 jobs that easily belong in S tier. So Black Mage, what is the deal with Black Mage? Well, why do they deserve to be up here? Why do I think they deserve to be up here? Black Mage, first and foremost, is like the Pikachu, or the Charizard of the Final Fantasy franchise. It is like their mascot. That and White Mage. They are ridiculously popular. People buy them up, people love their designs, they're iconic, and so naturally, because Final Fantasy wants to make money, Black Mages are just as ridiculously powerful in-game as they are in basically any merchandise shop. I mean, seriously, I saw a Black Mage lamp out at a GameStop the other day, and it was $50, and the lamp was like, it was like a 2D lamp, like the size of your palm, and it was just the Black Mage sprite, and you could plug it in, and the LEDs would glow. $50. I don't know, man. But, in-game, where they're not wrecking your wallet, Black Mages are responsible for a calamity. Them and White Mages got into a big war together, and that war went so ridiculously long and got so unchecked because nobody could really contend with the likes of black magic and white magic, that it resulted in the elementals saying, you know what, fuck this shit, we're causing a flood, and that was how the war ended. Black mages themselves are incredibly powerful mages who are so powerful, in fact, that they gave in to this lust, this desperate need. It's like when billionaires like reach that point before they become billionaires, where they kind of like their mental snaps and they start doing anything they can for more money, even though they tangibly have no reason for more money, and like your life cannot improve beyond where it is. But there's something in your brain that's just clicked and said, more, 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 more. That is what black mages did, but instead of money, they want literal explosive power. And so they went so far as to even capture void scents, pulling them in, luring them in from the void, and as soon as they take the bait and come in, the black mages capture them, beat the fuck out of them, torture them, and use them to learn more, even more ridiculous and psychotic spells. As a matter of fact, the stupid hats that black mages wear, with the really long brims, are supposedly, oh, we're looping the song, are supposedly only that long because, I mean, if you've played 14, you know a lot of creatures can fuck you up by having you look into their eyes, hence the look-away mechanics. So black mage hats have these long brims, so let's say there's a void scent that wants to do some kind of bullshit to them by looking into their eyes, petrifying them, charming them, whatever it might be. The black mage can sense that and just goes, anyways, you were saying? Just like that. You just look down a little bit, and now your eyes, you've been saved from the absolute horror that is eye contact. I'm gonna change this song because we've heard it already. There we go. So, I mean, if that doesn't already make black mages sound like just the average black mage is a horrifying threat, well, let's consider the Mage War. So, the black mages, they lusted for power. The white mages said, hey, what the fuck are you doing over there? And the two got into a big fight. And the black mages, much to their surprise, couldn't actually wipe out the white mages like they thought they could. The white mages could put up defensive spells that could ward off the crazy, destructive magic the black mages could use, and so the two just kind of kept fighting at each other. The black mages were going insane, the white mages said we're gonna put them in their place, but the white mages, while doing this, were also just so over the top that they also became just as much of a threat to the land as the black mages. And so now these two siblings are fighting each other and making a mess of the place, and so enter the scholars. And this is why I put the scholars up so high. Because the scholars, during the Mages' War, were like, hey, this is, like, someone needs to shut these two down. Like, first, we have the black mages who are just being a problem. They're going insane, they're draining the ether of the land, they need to be stopped. Then there's the white mages who said, hey, we're gonna stop them. But unfortunately, white magic also drains the power of the land. And the white mages really want to stop the black mages. But that's kind of killing everybody in the process. So, the scholars show up like, hey, we're gonna do something about this. We're not gonna drain the land. We're not gonna kill everybody. We're gonna stop them. We're gonna stop everything. And so the scholars have these ridiculously powerful defensive spells that the black mages can't break, the white mages can't break. Nobody can get past them. The scholars showed up and they're like, alright, kids, sit the fuck down. And the kids did sit the fuck down. The black mages were sitting there like, man, I can't believe another group showed up, and this one's even better at blocking our spells than the white mages. Like, they are a threat. We need to do something about them. But we can't do magic. So, one of the little black mage bastards said, hey, what if we had this cool lizard, and we sent it into their city, and then the lizard gave everyone the Black Plague? And so, that's what they did. This song is not what I want. They sent them the lizard gave everybody the lizard plague. The lizard plague then turned everyone into tonberries, and that's why there's a city full of tonberries in Lenosha. And that is why the scholars could not stop the Mage War, and why the calamity happened. So, as far as black mages go, we know they are like the pinnacle of destructive magic. They enslave voids sent to get more powerful magic. They are walking nukes. If they are not careful, their own ether will set on fire and just kill them. But they don't care because they want more power. The white mages, similarly, very powerful. We haven't talked about them yet, but obviously they're gonna be an S. We can just skip them. It's white mage. And the scholars were somehow strong enough to shut them down. Like, these guys were absolute geniuses, and their magic was just as powerful. But what if there was a funny little lizard guy? So, there we go. Black mages beat the scholars via foul play, and then the white mages and black mages, because the scholars were shut down, all basically died in a calamity. Very cool. Next job. Let's go. We have Monk. Monk, I'm not gonna lie, might be, like, tied for the job I know the least about. I know it's got chakra. It calls its ether chakra, kind of like every job, well, not every, but most jobs have their own name for how they utilize their ether. Like, Dark Knights call their ether the Abyss, or Dynamis. We've got the Samurai call it the Ken. The monks call it chakra. They open up their chakras, they become better fighters. There really isn't a whole lot to it. The greater the chakra that they unlock, the more powerful they become. They're very, very dangerous fighters, but I don't think there's anything like cataclysm levels of fucked, or I'm breaking the laws of reality. So for now, I want to put Monk at a low A, because I don't think there's a whole lot that could stop a Monk that isn't, like, pushing the barrier on what's reasonable. And there's gonna be a pretty big gap between S rank and A rank. S rank is like plot armor levels of what's wrong with this job, why are they all so strong, whereas A rank is just someone who cannot be stopped unless you have an explicit way to counter them or shut them down in some way. The thing that they contribute as a job is incredibly valuable, something that other jobs maybe don't contribute. Next we have Bard. Bard is a funny little guy. Bards, they're soldiers, but they play songs, and the songs, they are etherically charged. The songs on their own are just kind of bangers, and they hype people up. It's like TikTok music, like what it does to kids, bards do to soldiers with their songs. So, I mean, that's cool, but it's just music that hypes you up and has like some slight enchantments onto it. I don't think there's a whole lot that really gives Bard the right to be up here in S. I mean, a Bard's only really as valuable as the people that they're buffing. And they can give you, like, you know, healing magic, or offensive magic, or the will to keep fighting. They can increase your mood. I don't think any of this is gonna help Bard get above C tier, though. I'm sorry. I don't even think that deserves B. It's just kinda there. They're here, they have magic arrows, they have magic songs, but their songs are not that powerful. They're just bards. We have Ninja next. Enter the Ninja. Ninjas are following the trend of manipulating ether in their own unique way and then giving it a weird name. We have the Mudra, which is like the Naruto hand sign bullshit. Like when you see on like CNN, there's someone on the bottom left who's thrown up gang signs at a press conference. That's how the ninjas cast their magic. So we're gonna go ahead and... I feel like the ninjas are a B or an A. So the deal with ninja, they kind of follow the archetype for a real-life ninja, in that they're very good at espionage, they're good at not getting caught. Oops, I dropped something. They can assassinate people, but it's not really their purpose. They're here to, whether it be for the sake of politics or something else, they're here to silence somebody, to fuck up some kind of plan someone had, or to gather information. All of that other jobs are pretty good at, not quite so much as the silencing somebody without, you know, anyone knowing, the quiet assassination. Well, actually, that isn't true either, come to think of it. Okay. Well, I don't know. Ninja is either a B or a C. Low B, high C is what I'm feeling. The Mudras are quite powerful, but they're nothing mind-blowing. They're nothing the likes of white and black magic. They're just a cool way to manipulate ether, and they give the ninjas lots of diverse tools for, you know, the kind of scenarios you might find yourself in when you're trying to sneak into a Garlean encampment or what have you. I mean, they're not necessarily weak. They're better than a Bard. You know what, Bard, you go D, Ninja goes C. That's how I'm feeling right now. I could be encouraged to move Ninja up a tier if any Ninja mains want to try to drop a lore bomb on me, but I'm not necessarily unfamiliar with Ninja lore. It's just, is there anything they do that other jobs can't do better? I don't know. I feel like they kind of have a jack-of-all-trades kind of thing with regards to their utility, their combat prowess, and their diverse web of spells, which can make them really good when you need those specific things. But when other jobs can do all of that better, I don't know. I don't know. Ninja, I think you're just a C. I'm sorry, buddy. I love you. You're my favorite melee DPS. I know there's a samurai thing back there. That banner behind me, which is over there actually, that banner is very old. I used to main those jobs. About, I don't know, 4 to 5 years ago, something like that. Whenever Dancer came out, I guess it would be when I last mained those jobs. Goddamn. Astro and Dark Knight are still my beloved though. Anyways, next job we've got on the list is Gunbreaker. Gunbreaker's cool. Gunbreaker originated from the Bosnian? From the Bosnian military. They were fighting the Alligans. The Alligans have a lot of guns. In order to beat the Alligans, you need to get past the guns. Enter Gunbreakers. As the name implies, they break guns. The job icon, actually, if you've ever looked at this and wondered what the fuck it is, you are staring down the barrel of a gun. The barrel of the gun has been cut in half by a sword. That's pretty fucking metal. Imagine you're staring down the barrel of a gun and your immediate reaction is to, while still staring down it, cut it in half. That kind of summarizes what Gunbreakers do. But they aren't the most impressive tank, I'm not gonna lie. Their mastery isn't over magic so much as it is just being really fucking good at fighting. They were sent out as like a special ops, like elite section of the military that they hail from. Their gun blades can be used to deal some pretty insane damage. I mean, they're being deployed out into active war zones and going toe-to-toe with Allagan machinery. What the hell is this song? Allagan machinery, and then actually winning. That's pretty impressive, I'll give you that. But there's nothing about a Gunbreaker that pushes them beyond the level of fantasy bullshit that we're seeing here. So, I think Gunbreaker's a B, which is honestly making me question putting Monk in A. Maybe they don't belong in A. I don't know about that. But Gunbreakers nowadays, they're just bodyguards. They're bodyguards who are really scary and really strong. It's like a war veteran turned bodyguard. That is what they are now. That's not really the most impressive thing. As far as tanks are concerned, they're not the scariest. And honestly, they probably deserve C. The more I talk about it, I feel like they're so dangerous that a B is a good place to put them. But the modern day Gunbreaker isn't the Gunbreaker that fought in that war. So maybe they do just deserve C. Sorry, Gunbreaker. That's kind of an L. Anyways, this song is like not the vibe, but it's played so long that I kind of want to let it keep going. I don't know. Is there a better song we can swap to here? Something a little bit more chill, you know? I know what I want, actually. Where is it? No. It's in here somewhere. I'm just gonna search for it. There we go. I'm gonna play this song. It sounds kind of like something you'd hear in Endwalker or Shadowbringers, so we're gonna play it. You get a sip here, and then we'll go on to Sage, our next job. Alright. Sage. What is a Sage? Okay. There's this sort of archetype. I guess Gunbreaker kind of touches on it, actually. There's this archetype of job in 14, whose lore is effectively that Here is a big place, be it like a country, or a city, or a company of some sort, and when they need people to go do shit that's like kind of dangerous or kind of really important, they have designed a job specifically to go and do that thing, and you can become a job that is based on that. Sages are one of these jobs, these like employee jobs, I kind of want to call them. That's a fun way to call them. We're going to call them employee jobs. Sage is Charleon's employee. So when a Charleon scholar has to go out into war, or is just going somewhere a little bit less than safe, what they bring with them is a sage set of newliths, which are the weird weapons they carry with them, and the combination of their, you know, incredible wits as a Charleon scholar, because those motherfuckers are all ridiculously smart, they manage to keep themselves safe, and hopefully those around them. So, a sage, if we were to compare it to something in real life, a sage is effectively a combat medic on super crack. It's like a sci-fi combat medic, is the best way to put it. And they're not weak. They are not to be mistaken for... Oh, the camera just shit itself. They're not to be mistaken for underpowered, in spite of, you know... It's gonna reconnect. In spite of being an employee job. And I will continue talking about them when I see why my camera just shit itself. I have a guess. One moment. Alright, camera. Charge the battery pack. There is no way the camera's battery pack should... But this was charging all night. Okay, we're gonna need to get a dumb battery. Man, that camera battery is completely useless. That has been on for 30 minutes, and it was charging the entire night, and it is dead. All right, well we're gonna get rid of the webcam here, I guess. Rest in peace. Oh, I hit something else. There we go. Goodbye, webcam. Well, whatever. We'll do the rest of the stream no cam. How incredibly sad that I cannot gesture at the camera, and you may no longer gaze upon my glorious visage. Anyways. Sage, where were we? Combat medic. Yes, right. So, they weren't just like the utility kit that was taken out by a Charleon scholar who was going out to do something a little bit less than safe. They were also deployed in war and such. Like I said, combat medic. They are described as being able to shield an entire platoon of soldiers with their shields, their barriers. Now, I do have them set in B here. I didn't actually mean to leave them there. I have a few concerns with them. I don't think they're S, because they are kind of just a less powerful version of scholars. I mean, like, Charleon magic is cool and all. And the ability to shield a whole platoon is great, but we have no evidence of a sage, or these sages, being able to accomplish the same sort of things that the scholars could. Ancient magic being what it is. So, while these guys didn't, you know, pose a threat to two of the most powerful magic schools in existence, they aren't to be scoffed at. I think if we're gonna put a monk in A sage has to be at least high B. So, for now, I want to put these combat medics, powerful though they aren't really expressed as being a whole lot more than impressive, I suppose. You know, shielding a whole platoon sounds really crazy, but in the context of 14, shielding a whole platoon is kind of necessary if you're going to be a barrier healer in a war. So, we're gonna give him... For now, high B. For now, high B. We might move them up. We might move Monk lower. I don't know. You know what? I've been sitting on it for so long. Monk, you get high B. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't keep looking at that. Next job we have is my personal favorite, the Astrologian. Now, as much as I would love to give Astro some special treatment, because I do adore it, I don't think this thing deserves S. I'm sorry, Astro. So, the Astro is kind of a weird job, and as far as Astro lore goes, they really don't give us many examples of Astros actually doing shit, but they do tell us that Astro's really impressive. So, what can an Astro do? Well, they invoke the power of the constellations, and they use them kind of like runes, like big sigils written up in the sky that they can pull magic from, and that magic's called astromancy. And with it, Astros can utilize the power of a newborn star, which sounds ridiculously fucking powerful, but we've never actually seen, like, the limit of what that means in 14, so as funny as it sounds, we don't actually know if a newborn star is more or less powerful than a black mage's Fire 4, and I need to stop looping this song. So until we know just how powerful that is in comparison to a black mage, which is like the primary wielder of fire magic, I can't really say, well, Astro has the power of the sun. Because we just don't know. We just don't know what that means. It feels like instead of the power of a supernova, Astros embody more the power of the glorious twinkle you see in the stars at night. But there is more to them than just starfire and constellations. Astros are space mages, and what is space? Time. They are the same thing. Time is like a human-made concept. Time and space are... Go ask Neil deGrasse Tyson, I'm not him. Anyways, 14 devs did ask Neil deGrasse Tyson how that works. They didn't, but they did decide to give Astro power over time. So a really powerful Astrologian actually does have the ability to freeze time. That's like some fucking Dio shit. They can just stop time for you and say, hey, when time unfreezes, you're dead. That's really fucking impressive. But as far as I'm aware, there's like two, maybe not, maybe actually just one Astro who did that. So for all I know, that could be pushing like Azure Dragoon, like the Azure Dragoon of Astros. And I did explicitly say that I didn't want to include like one-off special, why the fuck is this guy so overpowered job users, because that can boost the whole job up when it reasonably shouldn't be. So we're not going to count that power because we've only ever seen one dude do it, and that one dude doing that was made up to be a pretty big deal. So, and that was the antagonist of the Astro job quests. So while the power to freeze time is really scary, we don't know if most Astros will ever have the power to do that, nor do we really know the limits of that ability. And that dude does get defeated too, so... I'm not, at least I think he does. So I'm not sure if Astro's ability to freeze time can give it S, but it does have some other things. It can manipulate time, by the way. A little bit of rewriting time, all that good shit. But just outright freezing it was just that guy. It can also read the future. Not like an explicit, like, that's so Raven-ass, I just had a vision. Quick, get out of the way, that light's about to fall out of the ceiling and crush your cranium. It more is like, it looks like something not good is going to happen over there. That's unfortunate. Oh dear. Uh-oh. This is a useful skill in, you know, helping anybody who's doing something relatively important decide what to do that day. It really does, like, the way that the power reads, it does kind of sound like the kind of shit that you get on, like, your horoscope, and now if you're superstitious, you're just being really weird about, like, I don't know, being around a certain type of fruit on a given day, but that is kind of the vibe of the Astro's ability to read the future. However, if I recall correctly, it's also stated that Astros can actually rewrite the future. Only a little bit, but they can. Being able to, like, subtly change things that are written in fate, which they are reading through the stars. It's like, fate is written in the stars, and the Astros can also kind of, like inspect element and then change what the fate in the stars says a little bit. as I see it, this kind of overwrites the value of a lot of what ninjas can do. Because if you have somebody who can read the stars, literally read, like, what is written for you in your future, on, like, the timeline of your life, they can just see that shit and then change it? What the fuck is the point of a guy who's good at espionage? When you can just ask this guy who can say, oh yeah, this is what's gonna happen. Oh, you want me to, like, subtly change something so that doesn't happen? Alright! So I feel like with Astro's, like, indirect ability to alter the universe, it's at least A. But I don't necessarily know that an Astro is anything beyond that. As far as, like, out of combat, Astros are ridiculously powerful. But in combat, we just really don't know the limit of their power. And because the Astro's power is such an extreme thing, a lot of Astros just aren't that good at doing it. Like, they can do it, but the level of effectiveness or success isn't necessarily that high, unless they're, like, super good. So, if we're talking about, like, a peak, this guy is the master, the definition of an Astro, easy S. But we're not doing that today. We're looking at how good, like, a high-performing member of a job would be versus a high-performing member of every other job and their usefulness and power and whatnot. So I think Astro is a firm A. Maybe the top of A, but I just don't think Astro pushes it enough to be, like, reality-bending, even though that's literally what they do. Plot armor kind of bullshit. Dark Knight has Dynamis. Dynamis is literally the power to say, actually, I'd win. That fucking meme? Like, Dynamis just is, nah, I'd win. And Dark Knight is that. Black Mage is the mascot of Final Fantasy. It nukes the fuck out of everything. Scholar, for some reason, is able to completely shut down a Black Mage's spells, which almost nothing else is able to do other than White Mages. But Scholars are better at it than White Mages, so there you go. Blue Mage. What in the goddamn fuck are you doing here? Yep, it's Blue Mage. I don't know, man. They copy spells, but we don't, like, I'm not putting Blue Mage in the fucking tier list. It's Blue Mage. Like, oh, actually, if I put Blue Mage there... Oh, wait, there's no camera now, so you guys actually can see with it. Okay, Blue Mage, you disappointed me again. Blue Mage is gonna stay here. We're not gonna put it on the list. Theoretically, you could copy the best spells of every job and then use them, but also, like... Casting a certain spell costs a lot of fucking ether. Says who a black mage can actually manage to or a blue mage can accumulate that much ether. So their imitation of the spell might not be as powerful, in which case they're just a very flashy but not very effective mage. That's kinda stupid, and by that logic I would put them at A. Because I guess if you stole something really intricate and unique with a really unique effect, that could be really, really strong. But also, there's too much theoreticals with Blue Mage, so we're just not going to rank it. White Mage we've talked about a ton. White Mage is right here tied with Black Mage. It's overpowered because it's a mascot of the franchise. It's just as popular as Black Mage. The Mage War lore, I already talked about that, so I'm not going to go over it again, but White Mages are just the other side of the Mage War that made things get absolutely unreasonably fucked. However, on the subject of the Mage War, we do have Red Mage next, which is the byproduct of the Mage War. So, because the Black Mages went insane, the White Mages tried to stop them, the two of them drained the ether around them, because that's how you cast a black or white spell, and then Scholars tried to do something about it, and then Black Mages said, hey, take this fucked up lizard, and then the fucked up lizard gave them all lizard aids, and they all turned into lizards. A calamity happened. So, after the calamity, the Black Mages and White Mages realized, oh fuck. We did something bad. We did something really not good. I don't want to be a Black Mage anymore. I don't want to be a White Mage anymore. Blah, blah, blah. I think the White Mages actually mostly died. But anyways, the people who remained between these two jobs swore to stop being mages. Most of them anyways. And a few of them were like, we need to make amends. We have to do something about this. So, they combined the power of their two jobs to create Red Magic. Red Magic is well, it's exactly that. It's a fusion of black and white magic. But, here's the thing. the reason that the calamity happened and that the Mage War killed fucking everybody is because black magic and white magic drains the ether around you to cast the spell. And when you're casting a spell that is equivalently Oppenheimer magic, and you're draining the world around you to do it, you're gonna be draining a lot of fucking energy from the world. Like, black mages were single-handedly tearing down the ozone layer, is what I'm saying. And white mages were kinda doing the same thing, because they needed to cast so many fucking spells and such big spells to contend with black mages, they started draining the world just as much. So when they decided to stop being evil little bastards and combine their power and created red magic, red mages were explicitly made to not use the magic or the ether of the world around them. Instead, they cast black and white magic with only their own ether. And that's what the ver spells are. The ver prefix on like every red mage spell stands for vermilion. I don't know why, but that's what they chose. So vermilion holy, vermilion flare, fire, etc. It sounds a lot better than ver. Vermilion rays is way cooler than ver rays. But anyways, as a result of this, red mages are a lot weaker than black and white mages, but they can do a little bit of both. And in order to cast these ridiculously powerful spells, whilst not being able to, take from the ether that's in the entire world that you live in, they had to write sigils in the air with their swords. Every little movement they do, every swing of the sword, every stupid flourish is intended to help them create a magic circle or a rune or whatever that'll help them channel ether more efficiently to maybe be able to cast a spell. It's like you're trying to play like a AAA modern title on like a really shitty old laptop. And so you're modding the game as heavily as you can to maybe let your shitty machine put out the game. That is what red magic does. So red mage, I mean, it's definitely powerful. Red magic, white magic, in one kit, a very dexterous and powerful spellcaster wielding it. But by virtue of what it means to be a red mage, you are nerfing yourself and you are limiting yourself. So red mage has no way to get into S, because it's just simply not able to put out what a black mage or a white mage can put out. I don't necessarily know if the ability to use lesser powerful versions of black and white magic puts you at the level of something that can rewrite fate. I feel like if Monk and Scholar, who are very powerful in their own right, are going to be in B tier, then Red Mage probably belongs there too. I think we'll put Red Mage right here after Scholar. They're probably pretty close in power. Obviously, as far as destructive capability, Red Mage wins out, but definitely not healing power, so we'll leave it right there for now. I'm feeling good about that. The next job we have here on the list is Paladin. Paladin is a weird one, because Paladins, they were like this really highly respected order until they kind of just got lazy and fell apart, and nobody respected them anymore. And then someone came along and said, hey, we gotta put this shit back together, and I think that was actually the Warrior of Light, come to think of it. But anyways, the Paladins do eventually get their shit back together, and effectively what they are is like another one of the employee jobs I talked about. They are Ul'dah's like pinnacle of defense. If you need someone who's gonna go and be the sword and shield swinging hero in the vein of like Link from Zelda, that's kind of the vibe of the Paladin, except of course they're more chivalrous. They're more attuned with various oaths that they've taken, whether it be for their country or for like a certain organization or people. They're not necessarily the strongest. Like, there's nothing about them that really pushes them to absurdity, but they're not weak. They have access to holy magic. That in and of itself is pretty valuable in a world full of, monsters from hell. So I don't necessarily think that I want to put Paladin in S. I don't think a Paladin could contend with a Dark Knight or anything we have up here. I don't think Paladin belongs in one of the lower tiers, like with Gunbreaker. Well, actually, now that I say that, like, what is a paladin? It's a dude with a really good sword, really good sword play, and magic. It's kind of just a red mage, isn't it? It's just a red mage, but more defensive. Like, the more I think about that, if a red mage relied less on the sword, or the spells and more on the sword, that kind of is paladin. So you know what? Red mage and paladin... You know what? Yeah. We'll put them there. Paladins were just members of an Ul'dah military that fell apart, and there's not a whole lot else to them. They have really boring lore. I'm sorry, guys. You're like tied with red mage. I'll put you right here, I guess. Yeah. We've already played this song. Give me something else. Break the silence. Sure. So, there we go. Ooh, okay. So, you might be looking at this tier list and thinking, man, Final Fantasy XIV jobs aren't that bad. Why is there an F tier? Who could possibly go in F tier? Well, loyal viewer, I made F tier for one type of person, and it's anyone who plays this piece of shit. So, Machinist, just like in-game, is completely awful in lore. What is a Machinist? A Machinist is a dude with a gun and a bunch of robots. A number of guns, actually. Just all kinds of experimental weaponry. They are a very new job, so you know how your job stone tends to say that it's etched with the deeds of myriad insert job name here of ages past? Machinist doesn't actually say that, because the Machinist job stone is too new to have that. So, Machinist is gonna get an F tier, both because it's a dude who relies on a gun and not so impressive robots, where, you know, other people can cast magic. Like, imagine a Machinist versus a Sage. I'm not sure the Machinist would even break the Sage's shield. Then, we've also got the fact that jobs tend to get stronger the longer they exist. The longer you exist, the more time you have to improve your craft. And with Machinists only recently having been invented, they haven't had much time. So maybe in like a few centuries forward in the 14 lore, Machinist could crawl out of F tier, but right now, it just doesn't deserve that. It really doesn't. Alright, next on the list we have... Is this a fan favorite? I feel like it's a fan favorite now, but back in Stormblood it sure as fuck wasn't. This is Samurai. So, Samurai's a really fun one. Samurai is... Yes, it's a swordsman, but it's a swordsman who uses ether so intrinsically with everything that it does that it might as well be a mage. That's why they wear those long flowy robes instead of armor. It's there to provide the same benefit that a robe might for a mage, to help it cast spells. I don't remember how or why robes help you cast spells, but they do. So, there you go. That's something. Now, Samurai... They're kind of just exactly what you get in any other piece of media that has a samurai. Your wandering swordsman, he's kinda edgy, he serves some kind of master, he's very powerful, very fast. That's basically it. But 14, they gotta put a little spin on everything somewhere, and so samurai will channel their ether into their blade and cause it to basically break the rules that martial combat tend to have. So, when you're fighting a samurai, it's kind of like a blink and you'll miss it, and unfortunately what you're missing is the samurai killing you. So I feel like samurai either has to be a high B or a low A, because it's just kind of ridiculously strong, but they're also very few and far between, like not many really exist anymore. Their order kind of fell apart because, you know, the Far East is constantly at war, and then they're suddenly not at war, and now the guy who got stronger because the place was at war doesn't really keep getting stronger anymore. Just to be safe, I think we're going to put Samurai in A, but low A. That's what we'll do. The next job we have on the list is Viper. Viper's a hard one to rank because it's so new, and there isn't a ton of lore about it. So what I understand of Viper is that it is... basically, take like Assassin's Creed, and then add like the devil trigger mechanic from Devil May Cry onto it, and that's kind of what you get. Like, instead of a devil, you're channeling the power of your ancestors. That's pretty fucking cool. Vipers are ridiculously mobile, they're all about outmaneuvering the foe, killing in the same way that a wild animal would have to out in the wild. If you can't outmaneuver your opponent's going to clamp down on you and kill you. So the Vipers are stupidly fast. They are the definition of dexterity. And on account of the fact that they can channel the power of their ancestors or whatever the fuck, I suppose they're not to be fucked with. But like I said, we just don't know enough about them. I'm inclined to believe that a Viper is at the worst high B. And so, while I would like to know more about Viper, there's like I said, there just isn't enough lore about them for me to feel confident. We're gonna put them in a high B. From what little we know about them, I feel like they have to go there. Next up, we have Pictomancer. And while there isn't very much known about Pictomancer either, because it's so new, Pictomancer is just a lot more explicitly overpowered. Like, the idea of the Pictomancer is they can make fucking anything. They kind of have the same deal as Blue Mage, where, like, if they can come up with a spell that's broken enough, sure, they can just imagine it, whereas a Blue Mage needs to learn it from something else, they can use it. So this does mean that a Pictomancer could just imagine a nuke and then cast a nuke, which makes me want to put it in S tier, and I might. But the thing that's making me not so sure if it deserves S tier and maybe should go in high A instead is the fact that a Pictomancer, it's not like they've got the same concept as a Black Mage, wherein, fuck, I need more ether. Let me drain the entire world around me and also reach into the fucking void to get stronger. A Pictomancer, I'm pretty sure, is working off of a limited reserve of ether. So with that in mind, I'm pretty sure Pictomancer would have to be at best A. Because it's not like they can just make up as much ether as they need to cast the spell that they're imagining. So like, let's say a black, we're gonna put them right there behind Astro and above Samurai. Let's say that a Black Mage, yeah, you know what, sure. Let's say a Black Mage casts, like, Meteor, and then a Pictomancer sees that and goes, oh fuck, I want to cast Meteor. How do I cast Meteor? And so they paint a big meteor, and it is identical to the Black Mage in every way, except it's probably going to be a lot weaker. Sure, it's gonna function the same way, giant rock fall from sky, come down, crush everything below it, lots of hellfire, big doomsday vibes, but, the Pictomancer isn't actually doing it with the same force, it just looks the same. That's the kind of vibe that I'm getting off of Picto. I think it is infinite in what it can create, but it's not infinite in how powerful the thing it can create is. So like, let's say like a Pictomancer power scaling kind of deal with a Dark Knight. If a Pictomancer fought a Dark Knight, I'm inclined to think the Dark Knight would win, because while the Picto can do whatever the hell it wants, a Dark Knight could likely just tank through it and then cut away at whatever the Picto makes and slay the Picto. Because no matter how stupid the thing the Picto makes is, it's still limited by its own power. So, unless some more Picto lore comes out that tells us that actually a Pictomancer can infinitely pull from whatever source for ether, it's gonna be going in A. I honestly don't know if it's better or worse than Samurai. I think the utility of a Pictomancer is what makes it better than Samurai, but it's lower than Astro because an Astro can rewrite fate. That's a little bit much. Alright. We have Warrior next. Warrior. Warriors don't have the most complicated lore. They're just very, very angry. And they channel their very, very angry to make them, well, too angry to die. And by being too angry to die, you can imagine they're probably quite dangerous. But the thing is, for a warrior to perfectly temper their rage and their hatred, they do risk actually giving in to that hatred and then becoming a mindless killing machine and killing everyone around them. If you're familiar with the actual, like, Viking berserkers of history, warriors are inspired by those. The idea that these berserkers would go to war and they would not be able to tell friend from foe. They would be so full of hatred and vitriol and violence that even their allies had to fucking run. Because if they make eye contact with that thing, it's gonna kill them regardless. That's the idea of the warrior. and so warriors are fighting very hard with themselves to maintain their obscene power without giving in and turning into an animal. That makes me think that they should be highly rated, but I don't know exactly the limit of, like, when is a warrior just going to keel over? When is too angry to die not angry enough to survive, I don't know, Iaijutsu? Just by virtue of how insane the jobs in the higher tiers are, I want to put warrior at the lower end of A. We're gonna settle on that, but if a warrior main wants to yell at me, I'll happily listen. Next up we have Reaper. This job also kind of just, it's new, it's not baked into a lot of the game's lore as well as other jobs, so there isn't as much to go off of. But effectively, what is a Reaper? It is a Garlean soldier, kind of, that is using the power of a void sense to empower itself. So, all Reapers really care about is if something dies, because they need to feed that void scent that's giving them their power. As far as martial prowess, they definitely don't compare to the likes of a samurai. I highly, highly doubt they can contend with a monk or a viper, but what makes them good is the fact that they have the power of a void scent. So the question then becomes, where does the power of a void scent start to cap off? They don't have the most utility. They're hard to catch, obviously, because, you know, lurking in the shadows and all that good shit. But, I mean, black mages literally captured and tortured void scent just because they wanted to. I don't necessarily think that that void scent is going to carry you out of A. So I think we put Reapers right here in B. They're kind of another case of the employee jobs, where it's just a given country or organization or whatever needs to dispatch people that are doing something very important, so they invent a job for them. Sages are that for Sharlayan, Dragoons are that for Ishgard, and Reapers are kind of that for Garlemald, though not quite anymore, because the Reaper order kind of fell apart. Emmett Selk did some things to them, and, well, now they're gone. Summoner. Okay, Summoner is a fun one, because I think everyone would naturally expect that Summoner's in S tier, right? It summons Bahamut. But the point of this tier list isn't to take like the top 1% top performers of a job and then rate them against everything else, because a lot of jobs don't even have those top performers. And so it's just going to skew things. Like Dragoon, if I was basing Dragoon on Estinian, Dragoon would be an S tier, when realistically, I don't even think Dragoon makes A. So, for a summoner, we're going to look at what an actual normal summoner in the world of Eorzea would do. And these guys would go out in teams. They would be deployed to fight primals. And then, the primal that they killed, they would gain a small portion of its power. So, while the Warrior of Light has fucking Bahamut, Louisoix is the Phoenix, or as fans are theorizing, literally Hydaelyn in Astral Bahamut, most summoners, well, basically all summoners are not going to have access to something that insane. And if they do get it, they would have had to have somehow slain that thing before becoming a summoner. So, I'm inclined to say that Summoner is an A to B at best. Your average Summoner is not going to beat a Pictomancer, because a Pictomancer can do everything a Summoner can do without needing to first capture and enslave the soul of a Primal. And whereas a Summoner is limited to 3 summons before it, like, rips their soul apart, a Pictomancer can just say, you know what, I'm gonna draw a little funny painting of 12 Primals. You may now fight them. Good luck. So, I think we're gonna put Summoner right here above Reaper, and we're gonna move Reaper, you know what? Yeah, we'll put Reaper below Sage. Next, we've got Dragoon. Dragoon is what gave me the idea to just call certain jobs employee jobs. Because a Dragoon is effectively a member of the Ishgardian military, kind of like the Navy SEALs or something. These are just lancers who got really good at lancing. Then they learned how to use ether to catapult themselves up into the sky and jump around like a little fucking flying squirrel. They're dangerous, they're powerful, but it's also not really expected that they come out of the fight alive. They're disposable. I mean, Dragoon armor, it's very spiky, as you may have noticed. They're like little hedgehogs. but the reason that it's so spiky is because if a dragon, say, I don't know, ate one, it would start to bleed from the inside. Dragoons, if they were not expected to die, would be wearing armor meant to protect them, rather than to make it uncomfortable for the thing that eats them to finish the process of eating them. So, I mean, they're really cool. I love them dearly. Estinian is easily an S, but your average Dragoon is probably a low C, let's be honest. Dancer. Dancer annoyed the fuck out of me. Dancer annoyed me so much. So I would turn the camera on, but obviously it just died, like I said, so I can't. But I have all the lore books sitting behind me, and unfortunately, Dancer does not appear in any of the lore books. Dancer also doesn't have a whole lot of lore explaining how the magic it does actually works. All we know is that there was a dance that was causing people to just dance until they died, and then dancers came to be to stop that dance from killing fucking everybody. And their dances kind of work the same way a bard's music does, ethereal enhanced dances. They're more agile than bards, so they've got that going on. They'll likely survive longer than a bard. They can do many of the same things, much like how a bard would enchant their arrows, they're enchanting their chakrams. I think a dancer is probably a low C, maybe even a high C, because the utility you get from a dancer is a bit more important than the bouncy lancer. Hey mate, how are things looking over there today? They're looking pretty good. Well, save for the camera just dying. Alright, well the last thing we've got on our list is Blue Mage. And I guess, given I talked so much about Pictomancer, who kind of is Blue Mage, we'll just put Blue Mage in low A. There we go. Now, I want to do a little once-over of the list and see if there's anything that I want to change. And otherwise, I think I might be happy with how this has ended up. So, Machinist, I mean, like, I'm sorry. If you play Machinist, you're used to being at the bottom of tier lists anyways, so this one shouldn't really be a very hard blow for you. Bard, it gives you the same kind of supportive abilities that other jobs would, but where other jobs have maybe an extra utility outside of combat that really helps, or maybe they're just a little bit better at combat. Nothing about Bard makes it special. It's just soldiers who sing, and they sang so well that they said, hey, what if I turn my songs into music, or sorry, my songs into magic? That's about it. We've got Dragoon here at the bottom of C. Does kind of feel a little unfair to leave Dragoons just above Bards, but I mean, Dragoon is like one of the easiest entry-level jobs there is, and that's why they die so much. The likes of Estinian, who's become the absolute peak of what it means to be a Dragoon, he maybe wouldn't rank so low, but just, I mean, have you done the Fate where you fight that one Lancer who keeps talking about how his ass is very pointy? I'm sorry, Dragoons. It's just, when we're trying to make a tier list that looks at, like, the average power of, like, a above average member of a given job, I don't think Dragoons really make it that high. Like, if there was a beast attacking your town, and there happened to be a Dragoon staying at your town, you're gonna go and ask the Dragoon to help. But if you had the option to ask the Dragoon to help, or to ask a Viper, you're much better off asking the Viper. So I think we leave Dragoon where it is. Dancer, it's just a bard that's a bit better. It's more agile, it's easier to keep it alive. Its enchantments and abilities are a little bit more focused than a bard's, and its dances had an actual purpose. Whereas the bards were just, hey man, I be singing, what if I make my music into a spell? Whereas the dancers were like, oh shit, people are dying, let's invent a new art to counteract that. I think that warrants Dancer at least being a tier above Bard. Ninja is one of those that I feel like there isn't enough known about Ninja to accurately rank it. I put it down here because what a ninja actually is a spy. It's someone who's really good at espionage, and then in classic fantasy tropes, they have access to magic. But their magic isn't as impressive as basically any other spellcaster in 14, including samurais. And the ability to spy on somebody with the incredible powers of espionage isn't really that great in a world that has things like astrologians who just know what you're... Like, they're like Santa Claus. Like, they know what you're doing when you're doing it. They know what's gonna happen before it happens. You can talk to an astro, or you can send a spy out. You're much better just talking to the astro. And Reapers are also pretty good at sneaking around on account of having Void Scent attached to them. It just makes me feel like ninjas don't do anything special. And while they are kind of a jack-of-all-trades, that jack-of-all-trades role isn't enough. Gunbreakers... You know, looking at Gunbreaker where it is actually makes me want to pull Paladin down, because Paladin is really just marginally better than Gunbreaker. Gunbreakers were just soldiers that were deployed by Bolja to deal with the fact that the Allegan Empire, who they were fighting, had a lot of guns, a lot of ranged things, and those were a problem. So we needed people who would charge the front lines and tear them apart, and if they died, they died. That's a Gunbreaker. Paladins are the same thing, but they have more powerful magic to back them up. And they weren't necessarily supposed to die. Red Mages, the love child of black and white magic. Not quite as impressive as the parents, but it's got the sort of jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none thing going on. There's more utility to it, which puts it above the jobs I have below it, but I don't think its unique abilities make it any better than the jobs above it. Now, Reaper, I feel like the Void Scent magic might actually be worse than I'm giving it credit for. It's just, there's so much we don't know about it. I'm really not sure. I don't know if a Reaper's very good at winning a fight that it doesn't have an inherent advantage in. So, maybe actually we move Reaper down. Sage, another employee job. It's just a scholar, but worse. It's more accessible to become, but it is something that is primarily used by Charlian scholars, who are, that's kind of funny, they're called scholars, but they're not a scholar job, they're just students, basically. I think we leave it where it is. I think we leave it where it is. Summoners have the potential to be ridiculously powerful, but the average summoner is never going to have access to a legendary creature that's going to grant them the power to sit up in S tier. And it's not even a full primal that most summoners are going to have access to. So, I mean, you could argue it's better than Monk. But, as I say that, I don't know enough about Monk, so maybe it's not. I don't know, we'll leave it where it is. Monk is probably the job I know the least about in the entire game. Like, just... it's there. That's about it. Pretty cool. Gotta love that. Sorry, Monk. I know you're powerful. I respect your power. But, yup. Anyways, Viper. Viper's very new. There's not a whole lot to say about Viper. It hunts down monsters. Any creature that is too powerful to be considered an animal, or a beast even, it is considered a Vidral, and Vipers go out to 1v1 Vidral. That, to me, is really fucking impressive. And honestly, saying that makes me want to move them up to A. Because I feel like if you're going out there and you're 1v1ing fucking abominations, maybe, just maybe, you deserve to be higher than you are. So we'll put it there. We'll put it low A. Now, I could be wrong, because I'm kind of just guessing, but I feel like this is right. Blue Mage, it's just a Picto. It's just a Picto. That's basically, it's a Picto, but worse. Yep. Warrior. Well, my thoughts on Warrior haven't really changed. It's big, angry guy, too angry to die. It's the classic Berserker trope, based on actual real-world history, which is pretty cool. Only because I don't understand how dangerous they are, do I have them ranked as highly as they are. Maybe we move them down to the bottom of A. Maybe we move them down. Because with Paladin and Gunbreaker being so low, you know, it's possible that, and I do think that they are justifiably low, I think a Warrior's honestly not that impressive. You know what? Yeah, we're putting it down here. Right down here. Actually, no. You know what? Yeah, no, we're pulling Warrior down. It's going with the rest of the tanks. Sorry, buddy. I mean, there's just not, like, the utility of a Warrior is, lacking. It can go out and hunt things like a Viper can, kind of. But also, like, not really, because it's just tanking the hits, and eventually a bone breaks. That bone is broken. Sorry. Just don't get hit, idiot. They're very dangerous, but in the right circumstances. Maybe we put it above Reaper? I don't know. No, because Reaper has more utility. Yeah, no, I think just in lore, Warriors aren't that useful. What do we have next? Where was I? Samurai, I think? Samurai, incredible martial fighters. They are what you expect from a fancy samurai, but they also have magic. Enough magic that they can justifiably be considered mages. They're dangerous, they're fast, they are not that hard to kill, if you can survive them, and most things can't. So I think giving them A like this is justifiable. A samurai versus a viper is something I'd love to see, but I just don't know how that would end up. Pictomancer. It's the ability to make whatever the fuck you want. I've heard they can even make pocket dimensions, actually, so I think Pictomancer deserves to be high A, and it's not going into S tier, because S tier is supposed to be like, these guys are so stupidly overpowered, they might as well have plot armor. So I think we keep Pictomancer below S tier, just because we don't know the upper limit of its magic. If we had more context into, like, if a Pictomancer wants to replicate a really powerful Black Mage spell, can it do it at the same potency, or would its own limited access to Ether just make it a weaker version of the spell that looked visually similar? That's kind of the idea that I'm getting off of Picto. And then Astro sits at the top of A, because while Astro's abilities, you know, rewriting the future, being able to see the future, being able to freeze time, to heal people by reverting the wounds in time. I don't know how the fuck that's supposed to work. That's really impressive, but the powers of an Astro are so insanely ridiculous that most Astros can't actually use them at a powerful enough level to put them up into that what the fuck tier. So I feel like keeping Astro down here at A is warranted. We also have lines literally saying verbatim that they can fight with the power of a newborn star. That's insane. That is really, really impressive. But we don't actually, ironically, the power of a newborn star might not be that impressive, because we actually don't know how powerful a Black Mage's like Fire 4 is, for example. If a Black Mage can cast a spell more powerful than Starfire, then maybe that doesn't mean a whole lot. So until we get more examples of an Astro doing something in-game, I mean, even Oriange becomes an Astro, and he does things that feasibly he would be doing by the power of being an Astro. It's never explicitly stated that the Astro Jobstone is letting him do that. He might actually just be that smart because he's Oriange, that he just knew things that an Astro might have usually figured out from reading the future. So, outside of that one Astro who could freeze time, there isn't a whole lot saying that Astros can break the mold and enter S tier, but they have all of the potential to if the game ever wanted to develop them that far. Then we've got Scholar here at the bottom of S. You could probably argue that Scholar is above White Mage. So the reason we have these three up here in S tier is because of the Mage War. Come to think of it, my entire S tier is just the Mage War plus Dark Knight. These are the jobs that are tightly intertwined into the game's lore, and are like a really, really big part of it. So, we're looking at Scholar. Why is Scholar here? Because Scholar managed to shut down Black Mage and White Mage during the Mage War, albeit for a very short period of time, and somehow, being able to stop the Black Mages and White Mages scared the fuck out of the Black Mages so much that they said, hey, fuck this magic bullshit, send them a rat that has the plague. Well, it was a lizard. And then that lizard crawled into their city, and then it spread the plague, and then they all turned into tonberries. And then, ta-da, the Scholars have been stopped. And since the Scholars are stopped, and scholars don't drain the world around them when they cast spells, which the black and white mages do, which is why their spells can be so powerful, the world succumbed to a calamity because they drained all the elements from the world, and the elementals woke up and said, "What the fuck are you doing? I'm gonna drown you," and then Noah's Ark kind of happened. So, I mean, as silly as it sounds, scholars only here because black mage and white mage are overpowered, and it was stated in the story that the scholars were actually able to beat them, and the black mages had to cheat. White mages, they're here for the reasons I just explained. Their power is theoretically infinite. If they want to drain the world enough, they can pull an Aerith and make a giant holy. Black mages, same thing, but destructive magic. They did things so ridiculous as pulling Void Scent out of the Void via, like, baiting them. The Void Scent shows up, and then they capture it and torture it because they want to learn more powerful spells. I feel like that warrants S tier. And then Dark Knight. The absolute pinnacle is probably the thing that people are wondering the most. Why the fuck did you put that there? I'm gonna fully explain this now, because I didn't earlier. So, the Dark Knight job quests were written by Ishikawa, who is the person who wrote Shadowbringers and then Endwalker. And in Endwalker, it's explained that there is another source of magic that isn't ether, called Dynamis. And Dynamis is its emotion turned into a tangible strength, a tangible power. And Dark Knights are expressed as being able to channel their emotions into power. The stronger the emotion, the more power they get out of it. And they reach into something called the Abyss, which isn't explicitly their ether. As a matter of fact, using the Abyss too much can actually kill you, destroying your ether, which makes sense because Dynamis and ether kinda interact a little violently. So, and okay, huge spoiler, but hopefully you already know the story. Vena, when she sunders the world and creates the shards, she recreated everybody with the ability to be compatible with Dynamis, because the people from the before world were not compatible with Dynamis. That shit would kill them. So, this kinda makes me think that with Endwalker showing up, we learn that limit breaks are Dynamis, we learn that limit breaks are based on emotion and adrenaline, which is why the in-game mechanics for generating them are based on, like, hype moments, like being the last man standing, saving someone who would have otherwise died, critical hits, blah blah blah. If a Dark Knight's ability is to manipulate Dynamis and turn it into power, and Dark Knights are already explained as being, like, some of the most powerful martial fighters in existence, I think Dark Knights have the definition of plot armor. And thus, the S tier, which is kind of the plot armor tier, is where we're going to put Dark Knights. So there's my justification for everything in the tier list. If you disagree, feel free to fight me in the comments when this goes live on YouTube, or whatever the case may be. And with that, I would have continued today's stream, but I want to go and fix the camera issues we had, because I really would have liked to have webcam the rest of this stream. So, thought we're going to call things here. Go ahead and like and subscribe and all that fun stuff if you enjoy my content and you want to see some more. If there's anything you want to see me make, I know I've been shitting on 14 a lot lately, because I've got 20,000 hours. It's 10% of my life committed to this game, and when I see this game struggle, it makes me sad, so I critique it a lot because I want it to get better, and right now, 14's in, like, the worst state it's been since 1.0. So I've been very critical about it, but I do love 14, I do like actually talking positively about it, and this stream is actually something I meant to make months ago. But I finally gotten around to do it. It was very fun. Very much enjoy talking about 14 in a not negative way. So there's more stuff in this vein you guys want to see me make. I'd be happy to. With that, I've been Serve. I thank you kindly for watching. I honestly might be live later today if I fix the camera, or maybe even if I don't. So until then, I'll be seeing you around. Fare thee well.